Lisa Romano here, the Breakthrough Life Coach, and today I want to talk about those of us who tend to set goals to the extreme. So it's the opposite, or at least it looks like, it's the opposite of procrastinating, right? It looks like we're goal setters, we're high achievers, we're perfectionists, and we actually panic when we don't have a goal to set. Or as we begin to get closer to achieving our goal, we self-sabotage. We get close to the finish line and we're just like lions and tigers and bears, oh my, and we freak the hell out and we find a way to actually not complete the goal. Does this sound like you? Well, if it sounds like you, you are not alone. I wanted to talk about a couple of ideas that recently came up for me and share them with you, because some of you, I just did a video on procrastination, and a few of you wrote me and said, well, I have the opposite problem. I write lists all the time. I am obsessed with goals. I am too much with goals. My family has taught me that money is everything. I have to chase money. I have to chase after another degree. I have to chase after another promotion. I have to chase and chase and chase. Well, in terms of the law of attraction, I really want you guys to understand that chasing is tied to lack. If I'm chasing something, that means I don't have that something, which equates to lack. So that's just a little of attraction, little law of attraction tidbit for you right there. But it's important that we recognize, in terms of creating goals and in terms of being obsessed almost with goals, this is exhausting. And it could be tied to not feeling good enough. And finally, if I achieve this goal, I'll be good enough. Or it could be tied to procrastinating when it comes to feeling our feelings. Eckhart Tolle calls it the pain body. Think about it. When we're setting a goal, we can become very distracted with what we need to do and be doing in order to achieve that goal. And as we are caught up being a human doing, and we are doing and doing and doing and thinking and thinking and doing and worrying. What are we not doing? We're not in the now. We're not feeling our feelings. We're not experiencing our experiences, right? We're getting triggered, but we push it to the side. People are saying things to us, but we push it to the side. There are things happening in our house, but we, submerge ourselves with work. Or there are conversations that we should have, but we don't have because we're so busy. We're so busy setting goals. We're so busy conquering things. We're so busy. And so I think it's important that we recognize that those of us who have trauma in our backgrounds may develop an association with avoidance, which just makes sense because we're designed to avoid pain. We're not designed to run towards forest fires. And so if I feel miserable and somewhere along the line I learned that if I keep myself busy, I experience less tension, that's my brain doing its job. It's finding a way to help me alleviate tension, which is the brain's job, pain versus pleasure. However, because we are unconscious, we will not understand that this avoiding of pain becomes habitual. And avoiding our pain or our current experiences or our now becomes habitual. We are not in touch with who we are, and we are not living authentic lives. We are living outside of ourselves. We are seeking validation out of ourselves. We are living on the outskirts of what it means to be a real human being, experiencing our feelings and bringing our innate gifts and our desires that are non-physical and manifesting them in the 3D world. We want to make sure that we are taking that which is innate within us, these desires on our heart, these feelings, and we're finding ways to manifest them in the 3D world, right? So that which is non-physical becomes part of the physical, and it becomes part of the physical through me being able to consciously and psychologically acknowledge how I feel, and then being able to put into motion in a 3D world, rely on tools that allow me to make this happen, because this is an action-based universe. When I have learned that doing and doing and doing and doing and doing allows me to avoid feeling, then I really can't connect to my heart space, and I can't integrate, and I can't bring my truest desires to the forefront and manifest them, because my brain has learned that avoiding pain actually is less painful and is more pleasurable. People from a trauma background, they don't seek the same type of pleasure, or at least I don't think so. I don't think that we associate pleasure the way other people associate things with pleasure. I think that someone from a trauma background very oftentimes associates pleasure with non-pain or less pain, right? So I'm in a domestically abusive relationship and it's painful, but I experience less pain by fawning. I experience less pain when I don't make eye contact. I experience less pain when I don't talk back, right? So that's, our brain will associate pleasure with less pain, and we will stay in cycles of abusive behavior, never really breaking through or breaking free, because our brain we're unconscious, and all we're trying to do is stay a little bit safer, a little bit safer, a little bit safer. That's really not enough. That's not thriving, right? So in order to really, really thrive, we've got to come full circle. We've got to figure out what our brain associates pleasure with. Now, if we associate pleasure with goal setting, we have to ask ourselves why. What is the benefit of driving ourselves to the bone? Why do I work from 7 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night and work on projects till 11 o'clock at night, go to work the next day and do the same thing all over again, and I'm miserable the whole time I'm doing it? What's the payoff? Your operating system would not allow you to do that unless somewhere along the line there was a belief tied to this behavior that made you believe that this is what you should be doing, and there was some pleasure associated to it. It might be the seeking of validation. If I keep doing this, I'll get noticed. It might be tied to a job description. I'll be enough if I get the job description. It might be tied to being noticed by other people at the company. It might be tied to money. If I make this amount of money, then I'll be happy. But I'm speaking to this idea that goals are about being happy when, right? And what we're trying to do is be happy now. I remember I trained a world-class athlete, and she was at the top of her game. And the minute she won that title, she felt deflated again. She didn't have another goal to reach for. She had reached the peak of what she thought she should be reaching, and it freaked her out. It was almost like the want was better than the have. And while she wanted this thing, she knew she had to wake up and run this many hours and do this and do that and do that. And it gave her life structure. And it was something that she could control. And without this goal, she felt kind of out of control, which made her fall into what was really happening viscerally below the veil of consciousness, which is all this tension and all this anxiety, which of course she doesn't want to deal with, right? And so sometimes we become goal-oriented because it's what we can control. Why? Because we feel so out of control. What feels out of control? Well, first our childhoods felt out of control, and we don't feel in control of our emotions. And then we find avenues in which we can funnel our attention and feel more in control. But the problem is, the minute that we get that job or we get that goal, how do we feel? We'll right on to the next goal, all in a way to procrastinate feeling what we feel and falling into our heart space, right? So if some of us don't know how to live without setting goals. Like, we don't function well if we don't have something to figure out. If there's not some form of chaos that we can busy our minds trying to create structure around, we flounder. We feel anxiety. We can feel depression coming on. We can fall into severely codependent patterns. We can become highly reactive and highly emotional. And so it's really important that those of us who are perfectionistic and goal-oriented investigate why, because it does affect our well-being. So we can also avoid, we can avoid dealing with what we really have to deal with. The problem is that when we place our happiness outside of ourselves is a moving target. And so let's say, you think that if you achieve this goal at work, then you can relax. Okay, well, what happens if that company implodes, or a new supervisor comes in and they don't like you for whatever reason and you get canned? Then what? What happens to your sense of self? What happens to your goal? What happens to the order by which you are constructing your life, right? If you don't have this goal to achieve. Very oftentimes, those of us who are goal-oriented will find that we get to a goal right at the finish line and we bail. I remember going through nursing school, and right before graduation, I quit school. I told myself I'll always go back, but I didn't. It was right at the finish line, and I mean weeks before my nursing boards, I quit. I had a confrontation with the professor. She reamed me a little bit. I did not have the life skills to face my class. I think she was in line, but I think her approach was unnecessarily harsh. And I wish that, I had the life skills to get myself together and go back and say, I hear what you're saying, but I think that this was considerably harsh considering what just took place, and I'm here to learn. I didn't have those life skills. I was triggered. I felt worthless. I felt ashamed. I shame spiraled. I was completely triggered. CPTSD came on me. Overeating, exercise addicted. I think I rode my stationary bike 25 miles that day. It was just trying to control something that felt like it was impossible to control. It's very, very important that we recognize that when we're at the finish line, a couple of things are happening. We might have such a severe fear of being seen, such a fear of performance anxiety. What happens when I finally attain that goal? People are going to expect certain things from me. I don't feel good enough. Am I worthy? Imposter syndrome. What happens? If I have felt like I didn't have a right to achieve, right at the point of achieving, all of my lack of self-worth comes funneling in. If I am designed to not really quite have what I want, then I'm actually in the mode of trying to get what I want, not in having what I want. And my brain might not know what to do with actually achieving happiness and achieving a goal and achieving what I associate pleasure with. I might not be wired for this type of pleasure. I might be wired for stay in the chaos loop, stay in trying to figure something out. The brain likes the familiar. And so what we want to do, if this resonates with you, is you really want to spend some time figuring out how you can fall more deeply into your heart space. Ask yourself, why am I setting so many goals? Ask yourself, where is my alone time? Where is my me time? Where is my joy in this, right? What we have to do is we have to rewire the brain for joy, because if you're just used to staying in control and working towards a goal, then you're always going to be working towards a goal. And that might come after you sabotaging your ability to actually complete a goal, right? Because your brain gets sucked into having to sort out chaos and working towards finishing a problem. We don't want you there. We want you able to finally enjoy the fruits of your labor and just a day. That I want to leave you with is this idea that thinking is not feeling, and feeling is hard work, because feeling is so important for you to be able to live in the moment. And when you're setting goals and always reaching towards a goal, you're not in the moment, especially if when you get close to the goal, it falls apart for you, right? Because you're not ready for it. You're not ready to be seen. You're not ready to feel judged. You don't have the life skills yet to say, okay, bring it on, judge me. Throw a tomato at me. I'll survive, You're just projecting your stuff onto me anyway, You don't have those life skills yet, but you can work towards them. So thinking isn't feeling. And to feel, you have to learn to trust your feelings. I'm just checking my notes. Very difficult to trust your feelings when you've been given the message your whole life that your feelings are irrelevant and they're stupid and you're crazy and you're selfish and you're this and you're that. So this is a tough thing. This is a tough process, but I just want you guys to be aware that healing from this type of overdoing will require you to fall into your feeling space. And I just want to encourage you to understand what's involved. So thinking isn't feeling. And as we learn to feel, we're learning to trust what we feel so that we can make a decision about how we feel, so that we can clarify our unique goals. And part of that is being able to stay in the now and to identify facts from fiction, right? Identify what's happening in the now. Am I reacting to old stuff? Or is what's showing up in my reality, something that I need to pay attention to because it's leading me towards a deeper truth for myself? And when you learn to deal with your feelings, you learn to trust your feelings, you're becoming intimate with the self, you're communing with the self, and undoubtedly you're going to find stuff that you never wanted to deal with. Learning to observe the feelings is so important, because observing them is not reacting to them. You're learning to allow what you feel so you can integrate and process. And as you learn to validate your own experiences, then you learn to trust how you feel. And as you learn to trust how you feel, then you're able to clarify goals that are in alignment with your authentic self. If you set a lot of goals for yourself and you don't feel happy in your skin unless you're achieving a goal, ask yourself if you are in the habit of avoiding what might be below the surface. And ask yourself, if there are better goals that you would like to achieve, like happiness. Do you want to continue to run? Do you want to continue to feel like your goals are always outside of you? And do you want to continue to feel like you are not enough now? Or do you want to experience enoughness now? Sometimes we have to redefine our goal. And for somebody who is perfectionistic, sitting still and believing that you are enough, it makes you feel like your skin is crawling off. But perfectionism is rooted in shame, and I'm not good enough, and this desire to feel good enough. And it's the concept, the idea is that one day I'll make enough money, or one day enough people will validate me, or one day I'll have the house, or one day I'll have the children, or one day I'll have the relationship, and then I'll be happy. It's amazing to set goals. That's what the law of attraction is all about. You have to know what you want before you can attract it into your experience. But when you are attaching yourself to an outside reality, to an external experience, and you're holding yourself from joy in the now, then what you're actually doing is you're setting yourself up to stay on a hamster's wheel. Somehow we have to help you create a goal around being happy and being enough now. And I know you can do it. I know you can do it. I know that you can learn to figure out and learn to understand that you are enough, that it's not you, it's your programming. And the more ways in which you find to fall into your heart space, the less you will need to run your life feeling you're on the hamster's wheel, setting goals just to feel capable of surviving this tension. Our goal is to learn how to sit in our bodies and be uncomfortable for longer periods of time so that we don't have to dissociate, so that we don't have to create chaos in our lives, so that we don't have to stay on the hamster's wheel. Our goal is to be able to stay in our bodies for a longer period of time while we're uncomfortable, learning to validate what shows up in those moments, and learn to bear witness to what we're experiencing, and learn to tell ourselves over and over and over that this moment is enough. Practice telling yourself that in this moment, there I am, and in this moment, all there is. And in this moment, if you can find peace in this moment, and you can pull yourself back from setting unrealistic goals, or if you can decide to live your life less ruled by your goals, learn to just enjoy the moment. Learn to be a little spontaneous. Take risks once in a while with being spontaneous. Wake up on a Saturday without a goal list and learn to sit. You have to learn to deal with that anxiety, because if you're somebody who likes to know what she's doing or he's doing every minute of the day, watching Netflix for an hour and not knowing what you're going to do after that might be anxiety provoking. But see if you can deal with that. Maybe go for a walk and see where that walk brings you. Maybe go for some ice cream. Maybe go for a shake and see where that brings you. But see if you can begin to have a day to yourself. Don't make the bed. Don't clean the bathroom. Interrupt the pattern of perfectionism. Let people off the hook once in a while. Know that not everybody is not running their lives by the same way you are. And see if breathing some flexibility into these mindsets helps you feel more at home in your own skin. So I hope this video has helped you feel a little bit more self-understanding and a little bit more patient with the self. Bye for now. Until next time.